Hello, everybody. Welcome to another riveting episode of Buggy Reviews. Today's episode, we are going to be reviewing Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. And I will not mince words here. I did not find it enjoyable. I found it quite a boring affair. Now, why is that? Well, let's start from the beginning. Okay, so Shang-Chi, I'm not familiar with this character, really. Like, I cannot claim that I've read anything with him in it. I've read maybe one book of Domino where Shang-Chi appeared in for about an issue and a half. That's about it. I did a little Googling when I heard he was getting a movie. I got a general idea of the character, or at least some thought of it. I did hear that he was like a Bruce Lee kind of knockoff because they really wanted to make a Bruce Lee comic book back in the day, but they couldn't, so they just made Shang-Chi be their equivalent, I think. I could be wrong on that part, but I know that Shang-Chi is supposed to be like a Bruce Lee character, like, you know. And I know that they fudged in some stuff with the Mandarin and all that, because that's not how it is in the comic books. You know, just it's a whole thing, but I'm not going to bore you with the details on that one. Now, throwing him into the MCU, you know, he's a new character joining the fray, and all that. Okay, and you know, it's like, okay, we got the Ten Rings, we got the Mandarin, or you know, supposed to be the actual version of the Mandarin, not like what we got in Iron Man 3. But in reality, that's not really Mandarin. What can I really say about this movie? I mean, I'm gonna be beating a dead horse with this one, but the movie was just so boring and bland and tasteless to me. I legit just could not get anything out of it. At least with Black Widow, you know, the first two acts of the movie were at least like somewhat entertaining, and there was aspects that I like and I could take out and enjoy. But with this one, I just didn't really feel anything. I felt pretty numb throughout the experience. Just felt numb with the occasional eye roll. Now, with certain characters, like Shang-Chi himself, like, I'm not familiar with the actor, really. I know that he's a bit of a prima donna on Twitter, and that he used to be a stock image model, you know, like those guys you'd see on Google Images for those stock images, and he used to be one of the models there. And I know he did, like, some other show called Kim's Convenience or something like that. I never seen it, so I wouldn't know what the hell it is. But yeah, so he's relatively new to me, and I just don't think he sold it, because the character just was pretty blank. You know, he's just kind of there, running around, kind of getting led around more or less throughout the plot of his own movie. I didn't really get a general idea of, like, who he was. Like, I see where they were trying to, but it's just like he just was too bland and plain for me to even understand it, or even get a general idea of what this character is. And you know, it just made me just feel just annoyed. They have this, like, comic relief character played by Awkwafina, who's like kind of who's just like, she makes some jokes that I just not really into, because I mean, that's typical of Marvel these days. They just make too many jokes that just don't land well, or they just put them in the wrong, like, line, and it's kind of like, I don't know, it just doesn't work for me there. But that's, comedy is subjective, you know, so whatever. But yeah, she just didn't really strike me as anything, and it's weird they try to push her into like high positions, you know, but that just, in the story, that it just doesn't work at all. Then they come in with Shang-Chi's sister. I forget how to pronounce her name. I know it was like Xiling. I don't know. I could be butchering it for all I know, but it's Shang-Chi's sister. You know, and she's got like kind of she's kind of got a Mary Sue story thing going, in a sense, because it's like with Shang-Chi's history, like, oh, he was trained to be a killer at a young age by his father, the Mandarin, and the Mandarin wouldn't let his sister be a part of the training, so she would train herself in secret, and yet she's almost better. she's just as good, if not better, than Shang-Chi at fighting, and does kind of steal a little bit of his thunder in various scenes, which was kind of weird. And they also established that she started up an underground fight club, which can have members like former Black Widow show up, Abomination, and Extremis soldiers at the age of 16, mind you. Okay, I guess that's how you're gonna do it. It doesn't make sense, but okay, you know. Then we have the Mandarin himself, who at the 8-minute mark of the movie loses all potential threat as a villain, because he gets beaten, and which is kind of a real dumb move, I would say, on the movie's part, because if you show the villain getting beaten by someone that's not the main hero in the first 8 minutes, like, we haven't even made it to the 10-minute mark, and I've already seen the villain lost, so therefore, how can I feel like he's got any weight or any, like, potential as a threat if he just got beaten already by a woman, you know, his wife, you know? And another thing is, the rings he has, the rings in comparison to the comic books, completely nerfed. They're totally useless. In the comics and in various animated shows, the rings could, like, shoot fire, they could shoot lightning, hurricanes, you know, the teleportation, I think, is one of them, you know, laser beams. They could do a whole lot of different shit, you know. But here, the rings, all they do is, like, they can just shoot, like, concussive, like, air blasts, and he flings the rings around, you know, because they're just giant, like, arm bracelets, you know, kind of like a Thor thing, with the exception of there's no worthy, like, attribute thing to keep anyone from using them against him. And even in the movie, in the 8-minute mark, the woman that beats him, who is Shang-Chi's mother, his future, the Mandarin's future wife, uses the rings against him, and it kind of like defeats the purpose. It's like, okay, well, these rings are not that good, because that means if I can kill the Mandarin when he's, like, sleeping with a gun, you know, what's the point of it, you know? Like, he's not a very high power level onto it, so I don't know why they made it that way. I guess it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. The story was pretty, like there was a lot of different stuff going on here. Like, there was a lot of different story elements and plots kind of in. Like, you have a bit where, like, the father and the son dynamic, you know, the history, and, like, the son not wanting to become like his father, like that evil bad guy thing. We're just like, okay, cool. And there was, like, elements in it where the Mandarin's actor, Tony Leon, I think that's his name, I could be wrong, you know, has these good, like, lines and moments where it's like you see slivers, you know, where it's like, okay, it's kind of there, but the script isn't really doing it there. So it's like, that could have been something that's interesting there. And then they had kind of, like, you could even have something with, like, him and the sister, you know, having that kind of dynamic there. And then even at the beginning, there was, like, a kind of, like, a semi, like, wacky road trip, you know, thing of, like, going back, discovering your roots, your heritage, all this kind of stuff. It's like, that could have been a movie on its own there, you know. And then, like, the final act where it gets really crazy, where it's, like, all bizarre fantasy land with, and I'm not joking, like, Chinese Wakanda, because, you know, it's a magical world locked away from everybody, and they've got advanced, you know, they're advanced, making a very powerful type of weapon. You know, they're making, like, weapons and armor out of, like, dragon scales and stuff, you know, so it was kind of, like, very teetering on that, like, Chinese Wakanda / Asgard vibe, you know, because there's all these different, like, fantasy creatures there, like big old lions and even a dragon floating around there, and weird fur creatures with no face. It was very weird, I'll tell you that. The fighting, like, I'd say for maybe one scene where Shang-Chi is fighting Death Dealer, there was an actual interesting, like, martial arts fight. Otherwise, it's kind of in the same realm as your typical MCU movie with CGI and kind of weird looking fakeness of it all. And it's like, and that's the thing, I've never like tried to get into that, be on that person who just hammers in on that. You know, I've never been like an anti-CGI guy. You know, I'm just as long as it looks good, I'm fine with it. But here it's kind of like it gets even like too easy to spot what's fake and what's real. Like the bus scene where Shang-Chi is fighting like Razor Fist and all these other guys on a bus. It's like, it just doesn't look right. It just looks so weird and janky, just unpolished, you know. And you know, there's that. And a funny thing is, another bit of this, like this movie was trying to be everything. It was trying to appeal to China, and was trying to appeal to like the lefty kind of area. You know, he was trying to do this big thing, because it's like you have your typical thing they do with female characters where they try to make them better than the male characters in almost every aspect, and they try to show them up. But they were trying to balance it out, because originally they were trying to get this movie to film in China, you know, but that got banned due to not only, I think it was just like I think the main reason, I think, was China said that the actors that they picked to, you know, appeal to them were too ugly. I guess I think there might have been a couple other reasons, but I know that was like one of the bigger ones that was brought up. So it's like, yeah, they have that going. So you have these female like empowerment kind of things going, but they can't do that too much because it would not save the male characters, and that doesn't work, especially because of the entire cast, with the exception of one or two characters, I think, is all in that Asian demographic. So it's like, okay, you can't do that because China won't like that. So it's like they're doing that, and you can feel that these two forces are just tearing at to each other, because it's like they've been forcibly fused into one, and they're like trying to tear itself apart. You know, you kind of get a little bit of a whiplash effect with it, just on how many things they try to do that try to appeal to everyone yet appeal to no one, kind of thing. And God, I think that's kind of it. It's just like the movie was not very entertaining to me. I'm disappointed, really, because, you know, like, I don't know, I wouldn't have minded a good superhero martial artist movie, you know, that had kind of like the similar vein of like Jackie Chan and Jet Li, and even like some Bruce Lee and Sonny Chiba movies. Like those were good, but it's like you didn't quite get that here. And the characters just are not that interesting. You know, the script is just very bland. It's just like they just threw everything at a wall, and it just didn't quite work. You know, like there's some elements that maybe you could, if you sift through all of it. Now maybe I could try this with a bug craft video, maybe, but just from looking at this as a whole as it is now, there was just not much to it. It's very disappointing. I would have liked a good movie, like hell, and I wouldn't have even minded a new character getting thrown into the foray. But it's like, nope, it didn't work, and you know, it's just bland, boring, not that good at all. Like, not even like, you know, that's just how it is. And I think I can only say bland, boring, or whatever for so long before it just gets repetitive, and we've already reached that repetitiveness. So, leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. If you would like me to do a Bugcraft video on Shang-Chi, leave it down in the comment section below. I would like comments, please. Anywho, you can tell me your thoughts on Shang-Chi if you had watched it, or if you want me to review something else, movie, game, whatever. With that said, I hope to see you all next time. Goodbye.